And I think what fascinated me the most about Alex was the fact that he was a young man with a disability who was interested in creating and telling his story through the medium of theatre.
Well, what a wonderful person he is, and I have known him for a little over 10 years now, and he's had a fabulous journey in that time.
I first met Alex in 2001. By that stage, the company had been going for 4 years, and Alex had done a number of shows with Joe Raphael.
I had met Alex when we did creative development for his project. Myself and Tony Nikolakopoulos and Andreas Litras, who directed it, and Alex himself. It was quite a pleasant experience. My first impressions, I suppose, of Alex was that he was actually quite funny.
My first impressions of Alex was, at first there was that anticipation, what's it going to be like to work with an intellectually impaired actor, and that was very soonly just forgotten about as soon as you meet Alex.
My name is Alex Litsus. I was born a village about 28 km to a city called Komitini Rhodopolis, that is northeast of Greece. My parents, my brother and I left Greece when I was about 4 to 5 months old. We went on a boat called Patras. We landed to a port called Fremantle, Western Australia. Then after that we landed to Port Melbourne. Then we went on to Springvale and we stayed ever since until today. In the first 3 years in school, I have a pretty good years.
Φυσικά όπως όλοι έχουμε αγωνία πώς θα πάει το παιδί μας στο σχολείο. Και αυτός ήταν χαρούμενος που θα πάει σχολείο πλέον, μεγάλωσε. Αλλά το σχολείο δεν ήταν και τόσο εύκολο για αυτόν. Γιατί εμείς στο σπίτι τον μιλούσαμε ελληνικά. Στο σχολείο πήγε, δεν είχε ιδέα από τα εγγλέζικα καθόλου. Δεν μπορούσε να συνονοηθεί με τους δασκάλους. Δεν ήταν όμως μόνο αυτό. Ήταν ότι και το μυαλό του δεν δούλευε σωστά για να μπορέσει να παρακολουθήσει τους δασκάλους. Κάθε βράδυ που ερχότανε ήταν θυμωμένο γιατί τα παιδιά δεν τον καταλαβαίνανε. Οπότε πέρασε η πρώτη χρονιά, όταν πήγε στη δεύτερη άρχισαν πάλι το ίδιο, να μην μπορεί με τα παιδιά να παίξει, να μην μπορεί να συνονοηθεί. Αυτό πλέον το κατάλαβαν οι δάσκαλοι. Και μια μέρα μου φέρανε από το Education Department τη διευθύντρια για να με μιλήσει. Όταν ήρθε η γυναίκα αυτή, με είπε αν έχω καταλάβει ότι το παιδί μου είναι καθυστερημένο. Όταν μου το είπε αυτό, φυσικά, σαν μάνα, με ήρθε πολύ δύσκολα. Αλλά δεν μπορούσα να κάνω και διαφορετικά, αφού αυτοί το λέγανε ότι δεν μπορούσαν μαζί του να συνονοηθούν. Δεν ήθελα να το παραδεχτώ. Με δυσκολία το παραδέχτηκα τελικά ότι πράγματι έχει μια βλάβη. Είναι λίγο καθυστερημένο το παιδί μου, που ο άντρας μου δεν το παραδέχτηκε αυτό ποτέ. Έλεγε είναι τεμπέλης και όχι καθυστερημένος.
Back then I was wearing glasses. I was wearing those black glasses. I hate them. I mean, I hate it so much. But in the funny part was, I broke them 10 glasses in a row in each week. But at times, I have been bullied. They tease me because of my glasses. And not just that, there is on the racial side of it, but also with my disability too.
Αρχίσαμε να τρέχουμε στους γιατρούς. Να πηγαίνουμε στα νοσοκομεία, σπεσιαλίστες, speech therapies. Όπου ακούγαμε, πηγαίναμε. Που τελικά το νοσοκομείο των παιδιών μας είπε ότι δεν πρόκειται να καλυτερεύσει.
I left that school and I went to Daniel School, now Ermiston School. Since then, I lost all my friends. It was hard in the first 6 months, but I survived in the end of the year. So I had new friends. I also been through pretty much. I have been teased and bullied and pushed. I had it. I began to hate that school after that. Before I got into the Daniel Special School, I went to Greece. I was 11, 12 years old. Greece is a totally different place. At first, it was hard. It was hard for me to communicate with my cousins. Except one cousin. His name is Bobby. He knows pretty much good English. And I feel comfortable with him that I can at least speak English. Where I was in Greece, my mom couldn't take me to school or even to a special school because I couldn't speak Greek by then. So I was stuck at home with my mum. And sometimes I have to help my dad or my granddad at the farm. A few months later, I began to change. I have lost a lot of weight. I have lost like 20 kilos. I was happier, healthier, and more active. After 15 months later, we came back to Australia. My brother and I didn't think that we didn't have any future in Greece. Before I left Daniel Special School, I was invited to see another class. I did a small basic play. I'm not sure if it was The Wizard of Oz or something else. When I was looked on it, it tricked me. It made me feel interested. After I left school, I stayed at home for 3 years. Then I went to Gateway. Before I left Gateway, I was invited by with the group and myself, and we went to the Arts Centre. When I was in the audience, I saw the play again. I liked the way they played. I was in the actual play, and I was like in a dreamlike state. And I've forgotten the real world. The end of the play, someone tapped me to say, let's go home. I got a little upset. But in that point, I really wanted to go to drama. In 1994, I went to an active workshop doing painting. And I met this person named of Janet Donald, who she was an actor in the past. In 1995, ever since that year, I did acting and doing drama, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed so much in the sense that I wish to continue. 1997, I met a person named of Jo Raphael from Deakin Uni, who she is a drama lecturer, and also she does a fair bit of drama for disabled people.
He loved theatre. He'd been instrumental in starting the company in the first place because he was the man who rang Jo Raphael at Deakin University and asked her if she would work with a group of people with disability in theatre. Jo's interest is in theatre, and it was Alex that actually brought her into City of Greater Dandenong.
Before I met Jo, I rang her and asked her if she was interested to start doing drama in Dandenong. And she said, why not? In 1998, we form a proper new group called Dramability. And ever since that day until now, we continue doing the same people year by year. We have a few new ones, we lost a few. In 1999, I met Joe Cohen at Our Access.
I had the pleasure of first meeting Alex in about 1999 when I went to see a play. And it was when I first started working with people with disabilities in the arts, and it was one of my introductions to people with disabilities in theatre, and it was a fabulous performance, and the star of the performance was Mr. Alex Litsoudis, who happened to be playing a Greek version of Barbra Streisand. And I just said to the director that I would like to meet him, and so we set up a meeting, and it went from there. So one of the other interesting performances that I have been involved with Alex was when he was part of the Centenary of Federation Parade in 2001. And Alex, along with a whole lot of other people with disabilities from a group called Dramability, were dressed as their favourite celebrities. Alex chose to be Edna Everage, and then went on, as a result of his appearance as Edna Everage, to appear in the Commonwealth Games opening ceremony, I believe it was, with a whole lot of other people in the community, all dressed as Edna Everage. Another fabulous story about Alex.
In 2001, we were working on a production called Heroes and Villains, and Alex's character was Zeus, the king of the ancient Greek gods. And I thought it was very fitting that Alex should be playing Zeus. It was a role that suited him enormously, and his leadership, which he'd shown, I gather, over those 4 years of its initial development, came to the fore. The tragedy is that Alex never actually got to perform that role, because the night before it went on, Alex's father died. And that was an enormous shock to him and set him back considerably. He was obviously incredibly attached to his father. I hadn't met the family at that stage, and it knocked Alex out of the theatre loop for 3 years. He used to come and see the work that we were doing, but he never actually was in a show from 2001 to 2004.
Από τότε που πέθανε όμως ο πατέρας του, ένιωσε τη μοναξιά.
The end of 2001, there was a tragic end. My father died. My father had cancer in his lungs and also his liver. A year before he died, he stopped drinking and smoking. We all were happy. were so happy, but it was too late. The cancer spread so fast that he got sick every year. Day before the actual performance in 2001, my dad died. I had a shock. I had a shock of life, and I was confused. It took me 3 years to recover the loss of my dad. In 2001, about a week, 2 weeks after or so, I met Andrea, and ever since we grew our relationship. For 6 months that I've been with Andrea, I've learned a lot of things that I have no idea, or other experiences that I like to learn.
And I thought it would be great for him to explore his identity as a Greek Australian young man with a disability. And so I had this idea that he should meet my friend Andrea Litras, and as it turned out, it was a match made in heaven.
I first met Alex through Jo Cohen. She called me up and said she was interested in setting up a mentorship with a young Greek disabled actor, Alex Litsoudis. Having Greek members of my extended family who had disabilities, and knowing that the Greeks had a particular stigma when it came to disability, one of the most powerful things that came out of the first day was that I asked him to complete a sentence. I asked him to complete the sentence, "The first thing I remember is ... When he came back, he said to me, "The first thing I remember is sticks and stones can't break my bones." And I said, "Well, why do you remember that?" And he said, "Oh, I remember that many years ago someone had told me that to try and help me when people called me names." And he wrote this list of, I don't remember how many words, but when Alex started to read them out, then the list started with spastic and sort of got more foul from there on in, was sort of stunned and really moved by that. It was a really powerful statement. Alex had come into the show with lots of different ideas. He'd written some scripts and he kept on coming with new scripts every day and new scenes. I think what stood out to me was his own story, and that was the thing that interested me most. And so we started to delve more into his own story. So the story of his family, the story of their arrival in Australia and the various things that they had done, the story of his relationship with his father who'd passed away. In the final showing that we did, we had this series of monologues, so sort of quite personal, confessional sort of moments. This beautiful scene about his cousin who used to come around and always treat him disdainfully.
Hey, you want to go to hell? Yeah? You want to go to hell? No, baby. Yeah? No, baby. No, pig. Yeah? No, pig. Yeah?
There was a beautiful rapport that developed between Alex and Katharina and Tony.
You could see that, Alex was just really passionate about telling stories, about performing and about entertaining, which made it really easy to work with.
He does have a very strong presence and a very strong perseverance and dedication. And in doing this production with him and with especially with Tony and Andrea as well, I think we were all in a similar kind of a wavelength when we were doing this creative development.
About 3 months before I met Andrea, I met somebody else. I met Larry Board.
Alex is a prime example of how theatre can expand the creativity of anybody, including people with disability. The company has been doing a number of outreach workshops. This began when we toured to Hong Kong, The company took 5 members, of which Alex was one, to an international conference on theatre, drama and education in Hong Kong. And we devised a workshop, a public workshop, to be given to the delegates in Hong Kong. From that point on, that workshop has been developed to one we now give to teacher trainees at universities, so that those fourth-year teachers who are about to go out into the field as practitioners get first-hand experience of what it's like for people with learning difficulties being in schools, and what Alex and the other 4 members of that workshop are able to talk to those teacher trainees about is the downside of being bullied, of being ignored, of not being taken seriously as someone who has learning capabilities, but also the upsides, the teachers that helped, the strategies that did work for them, the classroom management which allowed them to learn. And Alex, of course, has experience both in regular school and in special schools.
Και τα χρόνια περνάνε. Αλλά τρέχει και δεν τον σταμάτησα ποτέ. Το μόνο που θέλω να πω στις μάνες που έχουν τέτοια είδος παιδιά, να μην τα αφήνουνε παραμελημένα. Γιατί όσο τα παραμελείς, τόσο απογοητεύονται. Θέλουν σπρώξιμο, αλλά όχι μάλωμα. Θέλουν μεγάλη υπομονή. Δώστε τα κουράγιο. Να είστε μαζί τους σε αυτό που θέλουνε. Γιατί αν τα παραμελήσετε, πλέον αυτά νιώθουν τόσο απομονωμένα που νομίζουν ότι δεν είναι ικανά για τίποτε. Όσο τρέχει και πηγαίνει, τόσο καλύτερα νιώθει και το μυαλό του αρχίζει να δουλεύει περισσότερο. Γι' αυτό δεν τον απογορεύω, τον προωθώ, γιατί μια μέρα εγώ δεν θα υπάρχω, θα είναι μοναχός. Και μοναχός πρέπει να παίρνει τις αποφάσεις του. Κατά τα άλλα, όσο θα ζω, θα είμαστε μαζί.
Who am I? Where I came from? Who is this person? Am I beautiful? Am I ugly? Am I stupid? Am I intelligent? And try to show the world that this is me as an example. This is only an example that it could remind you others like your brother, your sister, your uncle, your auntie, your cousin, or even a friend that you know who has a disability. It's very important. I would like you to remind yourself what it's like to be disabled and what it's like to be with it. So think about it. Think about this person. Think about him or her. I'd like you to share it. Think about my story. They might have almost same story about myself. So, please, think about it. I am a man with compassion and wit. I am a man with a character. I am a man with great spirit in me. That's who I am, not what I am. I am a man with hopes and dreams that will come. I am a man with many faces that I can make people alive. That's where I am, not what I am.